Hello lovely people, it's Nicola back in the Stitches and Slapdashery sewing room. It's Victoria Day today, which is May 19th. I'm not sure, I should have checked before I turned on the camera, shouldn't I? Anyway, Victoria Day in Canada is a holiday and I was rather pleased to get the day off. I think that the store might actually be closed today, so that explains why I didn't get a shift. I wanted to start a new vlog, partly to show you the new hair colour. I wanted you to see it while it was fresh. I decided that I was going to buzz my hair to 1 inch all over and bleach it and put some periwinkle hair colour on this time. I wanted something a bit softer than the bright turquoise I often go with. And it is soft as well. It looked brighter when it was on the hair, but once I rinsed it out, it looked quite pale. I'm not sure it's completely even, but the thing is, a lot of my hair is grey now, so that could be why it looks a bit uneven. But I'm really liking the colour, and I love it this length because it's so easy to take care of. Roll out of bed and get on with my day. I hope you enjoyed the last video I made. It was not a vlog, it was a making video for this little gift bag here, and I had a lot of fun with that. It got my creative juices flowing, and I really enjoyed that. And I do want to make more of those at some point, but there's so many things I want to make that I don't know when that will be. I've got some books I've been reading I want to tell you about later in this video, and also I'm going to show you my crochet and knitting whips. There hasn't been a lot of yarn play in this house the last couple of weeks. I think now that my yarn stash has got down to quite a minimal level, I'm not feeling the same sort of motivation. And I haven't come up with an exciting project that is spurring me on either to use up what's left of the stash or to buy more. So I'm going to wait and see when inspiration strikes on that. And for now, I have my sewing machine. The Dodgy bag make-along that Ali of Little Drops of Wonderful and Claudia of Crochet Luna are running this month is still going till the end of the first week of June, I believe. And I've made a couple of things, and the chat on the Ravelry group, the Little Drops of Wonderful Ravelry group Dodgy bag chat thread is busy. I'm enjoying that, seeing what other people are making. Now you may remember, I'm just going to grab this other bag I made recently. If you were watching, you may remember I made this scrap bag not long ago. And I used a whole bunch of 2-inch scraps that I had cut from my scraps and put into a Ziploc bag. I have 2-inch, 3-inch, 4, 5 and 6-inch scraps in Ziploc bags because I wanted to tame the scrap pile, and it means that they're ready to use anytime I want to use them. And so today I'm making something similar to this, but with 3-inch squares. I'm aiming for some sort of orange theme rather than blue this time. Yeah, I really enjoyed making this. I did a scrappy lining as well. That pink strip is just another scrap that I needed just to make the lining big enough. I didn't do any fastenings, any extra pockets. It was a really basic tote bag, and it just grew from the piece of interfacing I had cut. So what I've done this morning, I'll just tip you down. You're on the less fancy tripod, which doesn't have an angled top to it. So I can't angle you down on this tripod. So I'm going to take the phone off and spin you around and show you what I've got ready while my iron is heating up. Here's my pile of 3-inch scraps, and I've got some orange webbing that I think I'm going to use for the handles for this bag. And these are the ones I've picked out so far. So I took some medium weight woven interfacing and I drew a 3-inch grid on it. It's 6 squares by 6. I've laid my scraps on it. I'm going to iron them in a second. I had to use some black down here because I wanted to separate these snowboarding fabrics. They're a little bit strong, and they're going to be the base of the bag, so that doesn't matter because that's basically not going to be seen when the bag is finished. And also I needed to leave enough of these orange themed fabrics for the other side of the bag too. So I'm going to iron these on. And I don't know if you've seen this technique before, but when I made that other bag, I folded each section over on itself and you seam. And as you seam, you're catching all of these seam allowances. You just do one row at a time and it's all stuck down, so it doesn't move. You just take it over to your sewing machine, you sew all your verticals and then you sew your horizontals. And it's a really accurate way of making a patchwork piece because it looks like you spent ages making sure all of your intersections were perfect. And it was actually easy peasy. I did take a couple of pictures of my attempts and turn them to grayscale to see how the depth of the color, like the value of each square, fits in. But I'm not being too picky about it. I've got a couple of pretty dark ones, but those would be kind of over to the side. There's another couple of dark ones here and some light ones. I made sure these robin ones are distributed okay, and there's I think 3 of those in here. Yeah, so I made sure those were spread out. And now I'm going to get on and iron them. This side is pressed. You'll see that I left these 2 corners unfabriced because I'm going to be doing a fairly deep boxed bottom, and there didn't seem any point wasting a piece of fabric that was just going to get cut off anyway. Now I'm going to build the other side. Here's the second one. Again, I've put some of that snowboard fabric at the bottom with the black squares because I was running out of orange pieces. Lots of robins and even a couple of toucans in this one. I'm not going to cut the lining pieces out or build the lining pieces until I know what size these are once I have seamed them. The seaming on the outer is done now. This one went quite skewed. The other one wasn't so bad, but it's sort of looking a little bit off the 90-degree angle. What I did is, on this one, I pressed all the seam allowances, the horizontal ones, down. And on this one, which came out a little bit more neat, I pressed them all up, because obviously when the side seams come together, I'll need to nest my seams, so the bulk is going a different way on each side, if you know what I mean. One of them, I can't remember which one now, I think it might have been this one, I didn't have the squares fully fused down up here, and they started flapping about, which is a bit of a pain. So there's a tip, pro tip, make sure your squares are all fused well before you start sewing. Now I'm just going to measure this and either cut out 2 lining pieces out of whole cloth, or I'm going to piece a lining to the same size as this. Outers are done. I wasn't imagining it. It definitely is a bit skewed, this one. But when I put this one face to face with it, it's not too bad. I put them on top of each other like that, they look completely different at the bottom, but they are going to be this way when they're finished. So they should fit fine. I have my 2 pieces, 24-inch long pieces of webbing cut, and I just passed a lighter over the ends so they don't fray. And then I'm using the robin fabric, which is in the outer. Oh look, I just noticed I put them on the same line. I was trying to make sure I followed different rules to that. Oh, but there's quite a few of them in that piece. Oh well, doesn't matter. I digress. I had plenty of the robin fabric left, so to save myself from piecing, I just cut 2 pieces out, made sure they were the same size as the outers. I've used 4 6-inch scraps for pockets, which I'm rather pleased with. This is a pretty orange one, and on the back of that I've used the spool fabric, which is this one over here. And on this one it's a slightly different orange fabric, and again with the spools on the back. So now it's time to put everything together. I've seamed my outer to my inner. I basted the handles onto the outer first and then sewed the seam. Done that on both pieces. And now all I have to do is put these right sides together. And sew all the way around and box the bottoms, obviously leaving a space in that bottom or one of the side seams for turning. Nearly done. The bag is finished. Didn't take long. If you flatten the top, it works out about 14 inches across. It's about a 6-inch depth with the boxy bottoms and about 12 inches tall. They're quite big and roomy. That's one side, and that's the other side. And I just thought how nice that would have looked with some denim on the bottom. Oh, yes, I have so much denim from old jeans sitting around in the corner of my sewing room. I really, really need to start using that up. I used tons of it last year when I was sewing for the market, Farmers and Crafters Market. But I don't think I've sewn with any of it so far this year. So the inside's pretty. Got the 2 pockets. They're probably big enough to hold a cell phone or a few other bits and pieces. And I really like that robin fabric. When I saw it, can't remember how long ago I bought it, but when I saw it at Fabricland, I bought a lot because I really liked it. And I thought other people would like it too. And in the end, when I had my products at the market, I still didn't sell that many of them. Disappointing. So it worked out, even though one of the sides was pretty wonky. By the time this is all together, you can't really tell. These side seams should really match up. So if we're being really picky here, these side seams here are not too bad. They're slightly off, but not too bad. But on this side, they start out okay, and then they go way off. See, that one there and that one there are about 1 centimetre off from each other. And that piece is way smaller than that piece. Oh yeah. But people aren't going to be looking at that when they're using the bag, are they? They're just going to be looking at all the fun fabrics. Seeing as we're having a chat, decided to sit down and show you my whips and my books that I'm reading currently. Yeah, as I said earlier, I'm not super excited about yarn at the moment. I do have some Lion Brand Heartland up there, which maybe I should pull out fondle and have a look on Ravelry for some ideas. I might have something in my Ravelry queue that would be perfect for some of that. So maybe that's what I'll do. After I finish talking to you, I will go and make myself a cup of tea and have a little browse on Ravelry. So I added a tiny bit to this. You've seen this before. It's just a granny square. And I've reached the end of the blue, the light blue. I've got to the grey now. There's some grey and there's some cream left in the cake. And it's just going to be probably a little hand towel, which I'll put on the oven door handle just as a hand drying towel for the kitchen. I have done something like this before, and I added a tab with a button so that it would attach to the oven door handle. Because one of the most annoying things about towels on the oven door handles is that they're always sliding off onto the floor, which isn't very hygienic. And it's also very annoying. So at the moment, I'm using some big strong clips from the dollar store to hold my tea towel, my hand towel, onto the oven door handle. But this one, I think, probably will end up having its own little tab. What I could do is dig out a button from the voluminous stash over there and get that planned. No rush though, because there's no deadline for that. And it's just as well there's no deadline for this other project. This was sitting around an awful long time. So I don't know if you remember me making this bag. I had a lot of joy with this. This is the difference, you see, when you're actually motivated and you're doing something that you want to make that you're excited about, and it's so colourful. You know, the colours are just lovely. And I had a whole series of vlogs, I think a couple of Decembers or a couple of winters ago anyway, not the winter just gone, but the one before, where I made this bag. And there's some plastic canvas in the bottom just for a bit of rigidity. And the flowers were fun to crochet. And it's got a really pretty lining. And it's been housing this 10-stitch twist blanket for some time now. I've got a lot of this yarn left. I've still got a couple of bits caked up here and a very messy ball here, which I'm currently working from. And this is the progress on the 10-stitch twist. This is a pattern by Frankie Brown. She does a lot of patterns. If you look on Ravelry, she has tons of patterns on there. And it's a circle. It usually lies flatter than this, but it's been crumpled up for a long time. And you start in the middle and you do the spiral. And all this is called 10-stitch twist because every row is 10 stitches. And at the moment, I'm at the point where I'm doing five garter ridges where I'm joining, which gives that really neat sort of chain effect, and one short row just to add because you need to go around the curve. And at the moment, I'm doing 5 joining ridges and a short row. And this yarn is actually quite fun for it. If I ever finish it, it'll make a great little baby blanket. And it is Ice Yarns Sweet Baby. And I don't believe it has a colorway. I think it might be the only one of its kind. It probably doesn't have other colorways because it's got all the colors in the ball already. It is a non-gender specific colorway. So I did do a few rows. I'm terrible. I've got the attention span of a goldfish sometimes. I started knitting on this last night and it was quiet in the living room. Mr. Stitches was just sitting on the couch doing whatever he was doing with his computer. And I was sitting there knitting and there was no sound in the room. And I thought, oh, this is nice and peaceful. Do you know what? I stuck it for hardly any time at all. I thought, we've already had the TV on today. It would really be nice to leave it off. And then I thought, oh, I need something to watch or to listen to while I'm doing this, because I can't just knit on its own when it's something that doesn't need that much concentration. So I think I probably did about 2 inches on that last night, and that was it. But at least it's out. I'm going to put it back up in the living room, and I'm going to darn well work on it some more. I promise. Promise. The other thing I've been doing is reading quite a bit. It's funny how you can go for long stretches where you don't read a book, or you don't even go to the library. I don't tend to buy books, hardly at all. But I do borrow a lot of books from the library at times. And sometimes I'll do an ebook or an audio book. But I know how some people just love to listen to an audiobook when they're doing whatever, and I just can't get into them sometimes. I think with an audiobook, you have to like the voice of the person who's narrating the story, because if you don't, then you're not going to listen to it. And an ebook, you're reading it on the screen, which is fine, but there's nothing quite like a real book, is there? I mean, I still call me old-fashioned, but I still love an actual book. The one I've just finished is this one. It's called The Beauty of What Remains. And it's written by Steve Leader. I take it that's how you pronounce it. I'm not really sure. He's a rabbi in Los Angeles, at a very, very large synagogue in Los Angeles. And it's all about your loved ones, preparing yourself for the death of your loved ones, and the ceremony that we have around it, which I think, if you have a strong faith about what happens when you or someone you know dies, I think it's awesome. Because listening to, or reading, I should say, about the Jewish processes and traditions of when somebody dies and how they deal with grief and mourning and praying, it's just beautiful. And he talks about a lot in this book about his own dad dying, and how even though he has dealt with many, many funerals and grieving family members, it really, really didn't hit home what death was all about until he had to deal with his own dad's death. His dad had Alzheimer's, and he had a very, very slow journey to death, 10 years with Alzheimer's before he died. And it's just beautiful. And I think, it moved me to tears, that book, and I just love it. So I recommend that one. I am also reading this one, Dear Cisgender People. And it's a guide to trans allyship and empathy by Kenny Ethan Jones. And Kenny is a trans man who lives in the UK. And he's obviously an activist. Being black as well, he's definitely way down there in the minority list. I don't mean down there, but I mean I learned what the word intersectionality means, because he isn't just trans or just black, two groups who are and have been extremely oppressed and misunderstood and sidelined, but he is both. And he wrote this wonderful book explaining to people who are cisgender exactly what it's been like for him. He doesn't claim to speak for everybody, but it's, I feel that when I read something like that, my brain and my heart just crack open a little bit more, and that the more you become more open-minded by reading things like this, written by people who are going through it and have lived it. And yeah, and if you don't know what cis means, it just means that if you were assigned a gender at birth, say you were assigned a girl gender, and you grew up living as a girl, becoming a woman, and never questioning that you were ever meant to be a woman or a girl. You were living the gender that was assigned to you at birth, then you're cis. And yeah, I just love how much I'm learning from that. And the other thing I've started is called wintering. I've been waiting for this for a long time. I put this on hold at the library months ago. It's called The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times. It's by Katherine May. And I will list these books and their authors in the description under the video so that you can look them up if you're interested. And it's not literally necessarily about how to cope with the season of winter. It's more how to cope with the dark times in your life and how she coped and how we have to take care of ourselves when we're going through those dark times. I've only just started reading it. As you can see, I'm only this far in. So I can't really say more than that, but I think it's an important book to read. I have always loved the winter, the literal winter, the season of winter. And I love that dark, cold, introspective time of the year. And I have been very lucky that in my life I have not had to deal with much in the way of other kinds of dark times. But it's important to read something like this, I think, because, you know, one day I might have to. And I want to be ready. So that's it for now. I literally only just put that video up yesterday, I think, of the gift box. And I did a vlog just a couple of days before that. So I think what I'm going to do is get this edited and ready, but I will probably add to it over the week. Sure, I'll be doing more crafting over the week, and I will put it up in a few days' time. I wanted to make another one of these gift boxes because it was rather fun to make. And the funny thing is I started to look at my buttons and I got all excited about using, and my beads. I got excited about using beads. And then I got into something completely different. And I'm going for a Christmas theme. So I've got my unfolded takeout container right here. I have some batting, a little scrap of batting. I have this lovely holly fabric, which I am going to use partly for the lining and also for some of the scraps for the outer fabric. Got my 505 spray ready. I have some twill tape in various varieties, which I think is Christmassy because it's snowflakes. There's a little bit of silver on that one, and that one's gold. That one's silver. I think I'm leaning towards the silver, but we'll see. I have some red snowflake fabric. Well, a nice vintagey cream color with the red snowflakes. Some more scraps there. A scrap of gold with the holly. Ah, gold. Haha, looks like I'll probably have to go for a gold ribbon then for the tie at the top. Probably. I have a little bit of this. I have quite a bit of this Dachshund fabric, but I don't want to cut up tons of it because it's such a large print and it'll just get lost once I have covered it in organza and stitching. So I'm just going to use what I have as tiny scraps. I've got this fabric in a green snowflake, and I've got the red dot and the green dot, which all kind of go together. I'm wondering whether I should come up with something a little bit brighter, maybe throw in some red in here, a bit more solid red, maybe. And the thing that got me started on this was just these little wooden trees, really simple wooden trees. They don't even have holes for sewing. You can see daylight through the little stars on there, but I'm not going to put thread through there. I'll probably have to sew across them to attach them to my box at the end. And these two are grey. And then I've got these natural wood ones. So once I found those in the stash, that pretty much decided me on the Christmas idea. So we'll see how it goes. Time to have some fun. I have lots of red threads here. I've actually got two spools of the same red, of Gutermann polyester thread, which I will put in the bobbin a bit later. And I've got 3 reds here that are very similar. This one doesn't have a recognizable number on it. It was discontinued. I bought it super cheap. These two are close, 2250 and 2200, so that's fine. Doesn't have to be the same. I think I'll probably be using this twill tape for the ties at the top because it's got the gold edging, which will go with my gold holly there. Oh, scissors. I cut the backing fabric and the batting a tiny bit bigger this time because the last time when I did all the quilting, it did definitely shrink down the size of the thing, and I only just managed to get the template cut out from the piece. That's all my scraps stuck down with the 505 spray. Mostly stuck down anyhow. I'm going to put my white organza over the top. Pin it down. I pin it so that there's just enough pins to hold it in place while I'm free motion quilting, and that the pin heads are nice and visible towards the edge of the work so I don't go stitching over them. Now I need to put my darning foot on. The good news is that I have somebody coming over to service my machine next Monday. He is a mobile sewing machine repairman. I've had this machine since I bought it during COVID. I was working at Fabricland at the time, and Fabricland closed for 7 weeks in that March-April time when everything went haywire. And I had promised myself a better machine for a long time, and I ended up ordering this machine from a local store. And picked it up in a 2-hour window when they were open for the entire week. Oh, this is unspooling too fast and furious here. So I've had this machine for 5 years, almost exactly, and it's never been serviced. So I want to ask him about why my needle sometimes hits the crossbar of the walking feet. Make sure that the needle is in the right position and the feet are in the right position, and see if I need to replace the feet. Let's get a little scrap of fabric to use as a leader here. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he says. I need to drop my feed dogs. Mustn't forget that. There we go. The quilting is done. Definitely quite spaced out stippling. The red thread actually looks quite nice on the holly fabric. There's some red berries in there, so it goes with that. And because I didn't have any breaks in the thread, it's relatively tidy. I'm pleased about that. Now, I remember on that last one, I needed to figure out which I wanted to be, which facet I wanted to be at the front and back of my gift box. With this one, it's not as important because I think they all look about the same. I think I'm going to use mode 317 because it's a fun squiggly stitch, which is very similar to the quilting I've been doing. So mode 317. I should probably do a little bit of a test first, see what it looks like, how wide it is, how close to the edge I can go. Well, I've got far too much footage of me making this box, because you already saw me making a box in the last video, and you know how I did it. But a lot of it will probably end up on the virtual cutting room floor. So this one is finished. It's pitch dark outside. I have no idea what the time is. It's probably after 9. And Mr. Stitches has probably already gone to bed. But I had a bit of fun making this. I think I came down here about 7. So maybe 2.5 hours. And because I knew I was making it the same as the other one, I didn't have to figure it out as I went, if you know what I mean. I knew what I was going to do. I knew about how I was going to sandwich everything, lay the scraps down, do the quilting and everything else. So the process was quicker. But faffing around with these buttons, no, they're not really buttons, they're just cute little wooden trees. I don't know if that light's far too bright for you to see that. Faffing about with that tree, not so much fun. And joining the folds at the sides and then attaching these, I ended up squeezing my needle right through the middle of those little cutout stars on the trees on each side. And then I used the golden red ribbon on the top, not ribbon, twill tape. So it makes a really cute little box, holly fabric inside, which really looks nice. And yeah, there's a few little bits sticking out along the edge, which I probably should trim. But I think the raw look of it is appealing to me anyway. I quite like the fact that it looks a little rough and ready on the edges. So that's a little Christmas one made, or Yule, or winter solstice, or whatever you celebrate. So what's the day today? Wednesday. It was a pretty productive day. Took my car to the mechanics to have an oil change and the windshield wipers replaced. While the car was in the shop, I went to have an orthodontist appointment, just so that they can check my teeth haven't shifted. In case you don't know, February last year, I had my braces taken off after 20 months. It was a lifelong dream of mine to have my teeth straightened, and I did it. And yeah, so they check me every year now. So I've got to go back this time next year, just to make sure it's all staying straight. The funny thing is, they ask you whether you're wearing your retainers every night. Of course I'm wearing my retainers every night. And I said, of course I am. I said, I didn't invest all that time and money just to have them go back to the way they were. And they said, you'd be surprised how many people don't wear their retainers every night. And I was like, I'm a good girl. Give me an A. Okay. A++. So the stuff from the bulk food store was pretty heavy, but I had a backpack with me and I stuck it on my back and I walked back towards where the mechanics is, but I had to walk around quite a lot to use up some time, because they had the car for, I think it was at least 3 hours in the end. So I got lots of steps in and then drove home. And then after that, I made some granola bars, which would have been super healthy, except I put a little bit of chocolate on the top. And then we had pizza for dinner. So that was a communal affair. It's always a communal affair because all 5 of us have pizza. We all help with the dough and the toppings and the process and everything. So that's always fun. And then I came down here and made another gift box. So it was a good day. I'm pretty sure there's plenty of footage on this video for me to put it up, so I will get to the editing. The thing is, I love the editing part. And once I've got some footage in the can, so to speak, I really am itching to get it edited and up. I already edited what I recorded a couple of days ago. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your May. I hope everything's going well for you. And I will see you again really soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.